not that we, as a country, not that the United States responds all the time, that at some point it needs to take a proactive, it needs to strike before the attack itself, before the terrorist attack. And if some innocents are hurt, if mistakes get made, that is an unfortunate reality. Has that's a political problem, and I want to know, I guess, from you, if you think the country which has been reluctant to do that will be less so because of today.
Well, this is an act of war. As far as I'm concerned, war's been declared against the United States. We ought to act accordingly, and we should have a very stiff response to that. And to be honest with you, it looks to me as though what's happened in New York, just think about it. There must be thousands of people killed here, probably more than at Pearl Harbor by far. And there is evidence, there's indication that there were people who have been affiliated with Osama bin Laden whose communications have been intercepted that basically have said that they got 2 targets.
This is indeed the most tragic hour in America's history. And yet I think it can be its finest hour.
Time of unity. We've heard from many members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans today, members of Congress lamenting what they say was an enormous intelligence and security failure. Intelligence in the sense that the U.S. apparently had no advance indication that this was about to happen, and a security failure that 4 planes could be hijacked simultaneously.
I think we will have a lot of time for investigation and finger pointing. I think today we need to offer our condolences to the families of the victims and the bravery of those who have rescued people, and remember that this country is a country of laws, and those who oppose us are only countries that do not believe in a system of laws and democracy and the individual freedom.
You just heard the Transportation Secretary, Norm Mineta, say that travel in the United States is not going to be as relatively easy as it's been. There's going to be much tighter restrictions for Americans. They will have to endure what many Europeans have been enduring now for several years, given the terrorist operations unfolding there and other parts of the world. It's going to cause a reaction, as you well can understand, from the American public.
I think that's the least of our problems. I know when I fly, I actually welcome it when I'm asked questions, and I think it is up to all of us to cooperate. But America can't be shut down. We have to remember that we thrive as an open society, and I think we have to take all the precautions and to try to find the balance between the freedom for which we are noted and the security which we need.
Once the United
who has some thoughts on the magnitude of what was witnessed here today. I know Senator Dodd earlier today compared this to the equivalent of the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Right, and you know, he said, I don't think that overstates it. We may find out it will understate it. When Franklin Roosevelt told us that many American lives were lost on that December 8th speech, he was talking about 2,400 American servicemen and women. Unless a miracle happened 2.5 miles south of here, we are looking at a death toll that could dwarf that. The largest act of violence in American history, Oklahoma City, 168 dead. More people than that died just in the plains. And when you and I as New Yorkers look and we realize the landscape of New York has changed, the Empire State Building is once again the largest building, I would suggest to you the landscape of America has changed. We are going to wake up tomorrow in a different country. Our luck has run out. 6 people died at the World Trade Center in '93. We saved thousands more because the buildings didn't collapse. We averted terrorist acts in the past, not today. And I think we will not get on an airplane the same way again. We will not feel the same way about our security again. I looked at some numbers, Paula. The largest number of American dead ever in one day in this country was Antietam, the Civil War battle in Maryland in 1862, 22,000 dead. I hope to God we don't approach that number when all is said and done, but we're going to be possibly in that ballpark. And I think tomorrow, in some ways, may even be a worse day than today because the sheer magnitude of this event has kind of got everybody just excited.
And that's why days away.
And that's why but that's why the president's speech tonight has such a burden upon it. The stark reality of that makes what the president has to say tonight as difficult, probably as difficult a speech as any president, at least since Roosevelt's Day of Infamy speech.
Probably since Roosevelt. This is one of those moments. The president now just a few moments away from addressing the nation from the Oval Office. He has not been back in Washington for very long, but now from the Oval Office, the president talk about the extraordinarily horrible events of September 11th.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world, and we stand together to win the war against terrorism. Tonight, I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace. America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
Aaron, John, thank you. John King, our senior White House correspondent. Paula?
And earlier on, Aaron, we were talking with Jeff Greenfield about the challenge of the president delivering a speech where the toll has been so enormous. Jeff, your reaction to the president's words tonight?
They are the words that he had to speak. But again, the question is, when the president says, it may have shaken the foundations of a building, but it did not shake our foundations in ourselves. That's what a president must tell us, and it's what we want to believe. But I venture to say in the country today, there are a lot of shaken people, not just in this city. And I think the key is not so much the words that were said tonight, but what happens in the days and weeks ahead. How different a country are we going to find? How much are our movements going to be restricted by the need for more security? So, you know, that's why the speech tonight is just the first of a very long chain of events whose end we can't possibly predict.
We're going to be really prepared to back the president all the way now. In this sense, I do think it's like Pearl Harbor, because it's Pearl Harbor that led us all to come together to defend ourselves against the Japanese. I think this is Pearl Harbor in a sense, in bringing us now to look at this terrorist issue as in fact we should look at it, which is if we don't deal with it now, it will be so much worse as the years go on.
Secretary Eagleberger, thank you. It's good to talk to you again.
A very, very sad day for the Olsons, of course, for the entire country. Greta, put on your legal hat now. What is going to happen legally right now? Walk us through what we can expect.
Well, first, obviously, I can't tell you what the President of the United States is going to do, but there seems to be at least something the country is going to do. The President obviously has indicated the country is going to do something. But assuming that that action is done, something is done, the President, there's also the possibility of some sort of legal remedy. It's not much of a remedy, but you can it has happened in the past is that we've gone over and nabbed terrorists, brought them back to this country, and tried them for terrorist acts here on American soil or for acts that they've committed against American buildings overseas. And of course, they can get the death penalty if proven guilty. What's interesting about this and what people should know is that oftentimes it's done in a conspiracy charge. And if you have any involvement in a conspiracy, for instance, you just stick your toe in the water of a conspiracy, you're in for the whole thing. So a lot of people can be brought into a conspiracy for almost just a minor act aiding the conspiracy. Not just the ones who are responsible for planning and causing the deaths, but if you in any way just assisted a little bit, you're in for the conspiracy and you could face the death penalty.
All right, Greta Van Susteren, thank you very much. Stand by. I want to go back.
It's not unexpected. It is the kind of thing that happens when there is instability in the world, and there is instability in the world today, certainly in our world today. Jeff, it seems like days ago that we began this. Tell me where you are right now.
I was thinking about waking up this morning in a city that was going to have a primary election for mayor and other city offices, in a country that was worried about an economy that might or might not be flattening, kids back at school for the first month, at a time when the big issues, when big events, when horrible events seemed behind us. That was the political climate we've all thought we've been in. And we're going to wake up tomorrow in just a completely different city and a completely different country emotionally.
We wake up
as well. I wonder.
December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001. I think this state may well live in infamy.
America comes under attack. 3 hijacked commercial airliners are slammed into famous U.S. buildings, 1 into the Pentagon, and 2 planes hit the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York. A short time later, those 110-story buildings crumbled, one, then the other. And within the last hour, a 3rd nearby building, World Trade Center, building number 7, also collapsed. I'm Baron James. Thanks for joining us on this day of infamy, horrific acts of terrorism today on United States soil.